Hello everyone, welcome to the Two Whalleys. I'm Simon Whalley and the other Whalley is my dad, John. My dad's 85, I'm 45. My dad's living in Swansea in Wales. I'm living in Osaki Kamijima, an island in the Seto Sea in Japan. My dad reads the Daily Mirror, I read the Guardian. My dad's a massive meat eater, I'm a vegan. There's a lot of stuff we disagree on. There's a lot of stuff we agree on. Once a week, we get together on Zoom and we basically talk about all the world's problems and we have a good moan to each other. And sometimes it's quite funny. So we thought, why don't we record this and see if anyone else thinks it's funny too. Worst case scenario is we've got some nice memories that myself and my son can enjoy. So thanks for coming here. I hope you enjoy it and please let us know what you think in the comments and share on social media. Thanks very much. Enjoy the episode. Okay then, Dad. How are you doing? How are you doing?
All right, yeah. And the family all right?
Everyone's good, Dad? Yeah. Yeah, you really good.
Good.
It was Saturday, or Friday, isn't it? Yeah. All right, Dad. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I mean, this 900 million fuel ripoff was absolutely ridiculous. Like motorists charged 900 million extra on the forecourts last year.
Yeah.
Right. Retail had raked in an extra 6p per litre. Islam UK's big four grocers, that's the supermarkets, for not passing on the fall in wholesale prices. The prices went down quickly enough, but they didn't pass it on. They kept it for a bit at the high price, right? The CMA competition is not working. Asda decided to boost profits and reducing prices more slowly. In other words, they leave it, say, I don't know how long it was, leave it a week, and they made an extra 900 million. So
do you reckon? Yeah, go on, Dad. Go on.
So the ministers, the minister is sleeping at the wheel while the drivers are fleeced.
Yeah. Do you think they colluded in that, Dad? The four companies got together and said, let's keep the high price high? Because that's what they're saying about competition, that the competition's not working, right?
Yeah. Well, no, they're supposed to be the leaders. The four big supermarkets are supposed to be the leaders in our other companies. Compare the prices; they're supposed to be the cheapest.
Right.
But it's not working,
Well, when you got millions of people, so that little 6p, that it's nothing, is it?
I mean,
it doesn't sound like much,
million. I don't know how long. Like when the prices went down, I don't know how long they kept the prices the same before they reduced it. But obviously, they made them £900 million, which is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? As though they don't make enough.
No, I mean it's a nice little scam, Dad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not to be sniffed at, 900 million. So what do you reckon? Do you think we should be taking a leaf out of France's book by burning some cars on the forecourt there, Dad?
Oh no, that was awful. That when in France, isn't it? Because it was not long. It was only a few days after that boy, 17-year-old boy, got killed by the police.
Yeah.
But in the area of Marseille, the police won't even go into the place. They're frightened of going into the place.
Yeah. No,
it's in the Batterine district of Marseille.
Yeah.
Abandoned by police in 2021. Macron promised victims of the city drug crime that he would help grieving residents tell how he failed them, right? Police clash with North African descendants. Well, what it was, Amin Kazaki has visited 55 grieving-stricken families, which have lost a child in the war for drugs.
Yeah.
Right now, they're living they know who's killed their children. They're living in the same flats, and they can't do anything about it.
No, I know, Dad. It's nuts, isn't it? Yeah, they know who the people are, and they've reported them to the police, and
And the
the
police
police don't
won't
want
go in
anything.
there. I
Have you
know
seen
it's
how
hard.
they kill people there, Dad?
What do you mean? What?
Well, they call it a barbecue. They're like, oh, I can smell barbecue. They put someone in a car, they
Oh, that's
close
right,
them
and
in the,
burn them, don't they?
and burn
Yeah,
them alive. Like, yeah, it's call it a
yeah,
barbecue.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah. I think what it said in that story, Dad, that the police left there 10 years ago, not a year, not in 2021. They left 10 years ago, and and until then they'd had a police presence, and all the people in the neighborhood knew who the police were by name. The kids were playing with the police, and they didn't have these problems, Dad. And then the police
Mm.
decided to leave 10 years ago, and then the gangs took over. You know.
And they know where the drugs they know where the drugs are being sold, and the police won't even go in there.
Yeah, I suppose if they're selling the drugs to each other, they don't mind. If the drugs were being sold to white kids, it might be a bit different. But
No, because it's all Arabs. It's all Arabs and African people that live there, isn't it?
yeah, totally. It's people
In
from
that estate.
Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, all the former French colonies,
And
right?
they don't mind Arabs killing each other because they say it's one less Arab. That's all. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a similar situation that, like in the 1980s in America, where people, there was the CIA actually put cocaine or crack cocaine into the neighborhoods, hoping to get the people hooked, so that they would literally kill each other. That's all
Mhm.
quite common knowledge. That it's just a continuation of it, isn't it? And it's
Oh
all
yeah.
that this particular place, you can't go in there unless they let you in. The gangs have put cars across the entrance point, so they only let you in if they want to let you in, and the police just leave it. They don't go in there at all.
Well, it's an estate. It's an estate between two motorways as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
and
I
it's
think
not it's not
enclosed.
an ideal place to be living, like, is it?
No, no, no.
No. And so the 17-year-old Nahim M that was killed, did you watch the video of him being killed, Dad?
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
just there's no reason for it, was there? No reason for him to shoot him, like.
it doesn't seem like it. I mean, he was driving off, yes. If I did that on the Kingsway in Swansea and I drove off, the police, you wouldn't
The
expect to get
chaser.
shot in the chest at point blank range, Dad, would
Oh
you?
no, no, no,
You
no.
know.
Not unless they pointed a gun at you. That's it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's the only way, really, isn't it? Is if
Yeah.
the police officer said he feared like his life was in danger, but he was alongside the car, so the car couldn't run him over.
No,
How was
no.
his life in danger by having the door opened on him or something?
And he probably didn't. He probably didn't have a gun, did he? No.
I don't think so. But apart from what I've read, everyone said he was a nice kid that was trying his best to get on in life. But
Mm.
obviously, I don't know what had happened there. He's probably worried. He might have had some cannabis on him, Dad, isn't it?
Because we
You know.
think we're racist in United States and the UK, but it must be worse still in France. I mean, if it's like that, it's crazy.
Well, I think it's everywhere, Dad, isn't it? It's everywhere,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, imagine living in the same flats. You know who people kill your son,
Mhm.
and you're just walking past them, and it's absolute crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. And there's loads of them in there, Dad. Loads of mothers who lost their kids and stuff. It's yeah. So I think, what is it? Last year there was 32 killed there and then this year has been 23 with 50 wounded. That's just
I mean,
you know.
Macron went in there, but he went in there with probably about 1,000 police, to
Yeah,
protect him, like.
yeah. Well, he's not popular, Dad, is he, Macron? He's pretty much
No,
hated now, I
no.
think, in France, like, isn't he? But there
But
was
I
there was
didn't.
an
I didn't know
interesting.
it was that bad in France. I didn't know racism was that bad in France, like.
Oh, I don't know if it's any worse there, Dad. It's just they've got a lot of immigration in Britain. People like to say, oh, why are they all coming over here? But actually, way more go to other countries, Dad, right? Of course, France is just across the Mediterranean from, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. Marseille's a port town, Dad. So that's obviously
Mm,
where
mm.
people are going to head, in it. And
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
people in Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, former French colonies, so they can probably speak French, right?
Is it? It's only one part of Marseille, is it? This is happening, is it, or is it all
I
over?
I don't know, Dad. I don't think it's all over, but Marseille is considered quite a rough port town, But
Mm, mm,
I doubt if it's all over, Dad. I would assume not, anyway. But there was there
mm.
was an interesting. It was a senior lecturer in politics and international relations, Joseph Downing. He's a British guy, and he said it's impossible for Britons to grasp how awful the estates are. And this is a guy who grew up on an estate in London, Dad, so he knows a thing or two.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
So the mother at the end of that article we read, Dad, she is pleading with the French government to legalize marijuana because it's marijuana gangs that are committing all these crimes. So, what do you reckon about that?
Well, marijuana, I think that could be legalized, but I don't believe in the other drugs because in Australia
Hmm.
they've actually legalized some kind of drugs, haven't they? They've approved. Psychiatrists have proved that the use of psychedelics can treat some mental health disorders.
Hmm.
And they can prescribe MDMA to those suffering post-traumatic stress.
Hmm.
Magic mushrooms for depression.
Yeah.
Many,
So yeah,
many scientists think this is a good idea. However, some say it is too hasty, too early, because there's
hmm.
still a risk of bad trips. I mean, they do get bad trips, don't they, when they take these kind of drugs.
Well, I mean, let's these two drugs, Dad, magic mushrooms and ecstasy, which is MDMA, very different, right? The effects of them are very different. I've never ever met anybody in my life who's had a bad trip on ecstasy. Honestly, I mean, the worst case.
Yeah, but some drugs, there's some drugs they think they can fly and they jump off balconies and things like that. Like, them kind of drugs. You can't legalize all the drugs.
Well, I mean, that they have done this in other countries, right? In Portugal,
Well,
they've
no,
actually.
I think they could legalize cannabis because I mean, I have taken cannabis early on, but it just made me laugh and it gave me they made me well. I remember once going home after I had that, and I ate bacon sandwiches. It gives you it gives you one sweet food. You know.
What do you mean early on? How old were you?
Uh, Well, I'm probably about 60 then.
You were what? 60
About
early
60.
on.
Well, when I was in Manchester, this is true. When I was in Manchester, I left Manchester when I was 21 year old. I never knew anybody on drugs.
Mm.
Never knew anyone on drugs at all. Now that is the type of that is a good life when you don't know anybody taking drugs.
No, well, I'm not.
You didn't
Well, I'm
need
not going
you
to
didn't need to
disagree.
take. I mean, when you say drugs, they drank. Okay, that's a drug, but
Yeah.
there's none of that. None of these drugs about when I was 21. And right, they must have
So,
been. They must have been, but I never knew anybody on drugs.
how old, when you say how old were you when you left Manchester, Dad?
I was about 20, 21, 20, about 2015 probably. The
23.
first time I met anybody on drugs is when I went to live in Jersey.
So that's like you left Manchester. That was about 1959, Dad. 1959, 1960, right? So that
Yeah.
that was when drugs were just starting to become popular in America, right? With people, the
You mean
Beatles were getting
you
into
mean
it in
become
like
the
4 or 5
norm?
years later. You are?
You mean become the norm?
Well, no, I mean it was basically musicians, right, that introduced the drugs, Dad. And in the UK, it was the Beatles that started it off, and yeah. So I mean, for you to have missed out on the swinging '60s when everyone was taking acid and that, Dad, uh, you know, I don't know. I feel like you missed out a bit, Dad. I do.
No, 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 no. No, we didn't need drugs. We didn't want drugs, you know.
Yeah, but that's only because you didn't try them. You didn't know what you were missing.
No, I mean, when I was in Jersey, I tried the smoking, marijuana. Now, if they legalize, I think they could legalize marijuana, but the trouble is, some people, what they've had marijuana, they go on to other drugs and they kick, and then go on other drugs. So they're taking the wrong drugs. Then I don't believe they should legalize all the drugs. No.
Well, that gateway drug argument, Dad, is widely used, isn't it? And let's be honest, the first drug anybody tries, that is cigarettes, isn't it? And then alcohol,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
probably marijuana. But
Well,
so
yeah.
if you,
I
you
mean,
know,
cigarettes. I smoked when I was about 13 or 14. It's the nearest you could be to a film star because the film stars were all smoking on the films, and that's where people started smoking. Is because of film stars, probably.
well, yeah, and those film stars, Dad, they were getting paid massive amounts of money from the tobacco industry to
Yeah,
advertise
yeah,
cigarettes, right? That was what was going on, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm when I look at like magic mushrooms, and I think they probably psilocybin is probably really good for people with depression, and I'm sure people with PTSD, ecstasy is going to be helpful as well. The
Well,
cost is
no, no,
is
the
is
marijuana is
prohibitive though,
supposed to
Dad, isn't
be.
it?
Yeah, the marijuana is supposed to be good for people with arthritis and things like that, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, well, I don't rheumatism, yeah, and cataracts and things like that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, and I think magic mushrooms. This is something that grows in nature, Dad. And there's evidence that human beings have been doing magic mushrooms for thousands of years, Dad. So
Yeah, but it gives you hallucinations, doesn't it? You know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's good, yeah, you'll get some good hallucinations on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get bad ones as well.
Well, I think that depends on the state of your mind when you were taking these drugs, Dad. Right? I think if you're in a good state of mind and you're feeling good about life and you take it, then you're probably going to be good. If you're depressed, I know this is for depression, but I think if you've one thing is if you're a person who suffers from paranoia, you're constantly thinking this person's out to get me, this person's out to get me. Stay away from drugs, right? Don't do drugs because it's going to make it worse. Whatever your whatever your natural personality is, it's basically going to heighten it. That so if you're a funny, outgoing person, you're probably going to be more funny and outgoing. But if you're suffering from paranoia, you should not go anywhere near these kind of drugs, Dad. Right?
Oh no, no. To me, there's only one I legalize, and that's cannabis. You know.
Well, yeah, I think that's definitely coming down. I mean, it's been all Canada now is legal. Obviously,
Well,
Holland, you've got
Holland, and all
yeah,
these places you can buy
many
them in
many states in
cafes.
America now. Thailand, which is incredible. And I think they're making so much money from it, Dad. And then once the government starts doing it, all the gangs disappear, right? So I think that's one reason why it's got to be done, Dad, isn't it? Just to stop people, people in Mexico. There's hundreds of people dead every year, killed every year, and obviously in South America, Dad, from all these drugs, right?
Yeah, but there's still be dealing in the higher drugs, the A drugs, wouldn't they?
Well, not if you not
You
if you
know,
legalized it.
if you legalized cannabis,
Yeah,
all the other drugs are still going to be sold, aren't they? On the
yeah,
on the
yeah.
black
So yeah,
market.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think the most popular drug, the most popular illicit drug, is probably marijuana. That so that would a lot of that trade would disappear, right? Um,
Mm.
Everybody knows people who smoke marijuana. Not everybody knows someone who's jacking up with heroin, Dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's
So
like the mafia. right? They never dealt in drugs at first. It was all money and laundering and betting and that, like, you know. But when they knew that was drugs were good for getting for earning money, they started on drugs. You'll always find the bad people will find something else to sell. You know.
Well, yeah, they did. I mean, in the 1930s, Dad, when under alcohol prohibition, it was Al Capone who was controlling all the alcohol sales, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing. As soon as you make something illegal, illegal gangs will take
That's
over,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Because
that's why I'm saying legalize it.
yeah, because when the prohibition stopped, they went selling drugs then, didn't they? You know?
Well, yeah, they did, and then yeah, I mean, it's a long story there, Dad, but the Harry Anslinger, who was at the head of the prohibition, he started the precursor to the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, basically because he wanted to keep his job and all the jobs of all the people who were involved in prohibition, right? So they were like,
Mm,
okay, we'll end prohibition for alcohol, but now we'll make smoking marijuana illegal because it used to be legal, Dad, right?
mm.
So
What
I
it
mean,
used to be it was in America, was it?
oh, I'm everywhere, even in Japan, Dad. It was all like you used to be able to go into Harrods, Dad, and buy opium, which is basically heroin, right? And you didn't have
Mm.
people walking around like zombies in London around Harrods, in Knightsbridge, Dad. The problems only came in really when it was made illegal, and then you got all these gangs in, and then once you're involved in smuggling, Dad, you're gonna try and cut the risk to you, so you're gonna try and smuggle the most potent stuff you can get, right? That's why Al Capone, he wasn't smuggling 4% Carlin Black Label. He was smuggling whiskey that was 50, 60% proof, right? Because if you can get so much more alcohol into a small space, right? So
Mm.
I just think yeah, it's a bad idea having it illegal, and
Well, I
people.
mean, you don't want to be walking around the town and all zombies walking down like dead men, like I mean, I've seen them in Swansea. There was four of them, and they didn't know what they were doing. They would head bowed down, just like a zombie.
Oh, I
I
know,
mean,
I've seen it, Dad. It's quite
what kind of
alarming.
drugs? What kind of drugs do that then?
Well, to be honest, Dad, I don't know, but I think they're probably legal drugs that not legal drugs that like alcohol or whatever, but probably they're legal prescription drugs that people are on, Dad, right? And they've bought someone else's prescription and then they've drunk alcohol with it, you know. But it's probably not illegal, not illicit drugs that I can think of. Um, but the fact is, they're doing that now when drugs are illegal, Dad, right? So if you're going to have people taking drugs anyway, and they are going to take them, why not why not get taxes from it, and then you can put the taxes into good causes, to help people who've got dependence issues or whatever.
Well, I think the government they don't mind people taking the drugs because it keeps them happy, and it keeps them so they can make their billions and without people worrying, not giving rises to everybody, only themselves. They just let them take the drugs. It keeps them happy, like.
Well, yeah, and the politicians are probably doing it themselves there. Did you see the news this week that they found like a big bag of cocaine in the West Wing of the White House?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
see that?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying Biden's doing the odd line here and there to keep him awake because he doesn't look like it, right? He's sleeping half the time. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put it into his food to keep him awake. I don't know. Could be. But at the moment, what we're doing, people who've got serious issues, that have trauma, they've been abused as kids, they take drugs to try and escape from the trauma, and then we put them in prisons, right? And like a prison is not a good place to be if you're trying to get away from trauma, right? You're going to take drugs in there, and you.
Oh yeah, they get drugs in the police in the cells. Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, it's what should we? So for you anyway, Dad, I think let's. So if you were made prime minister tomorrow, cannabis would be legalized. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. But not
And if
not none of the top drugs, just the cannabis. Yeah, yeah.
so, if you want cannabis to be legal, vote for John Wally. If you want all drugs to be legal, vote for his son Simon. Uh, I think, yeah, that's that's pretty much the way it's going there, Dad. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see. Let's see. Maybe we can have a vote in the comments. Stick in the comments. Who do you vote for, Johnny Wally or Simon Wally? Let's see what we get.
Well,
All right.
I think the older people would say a lot of them would say cannabis is all right, and they would say the A drugs, A-listed drugs. No, I think they would agree with me. Maybe the
I think
youngsters, maybe a lot of youngsters would agree with you. You know.
maybe, but to be honest, that I haven't met too many people who agree with me. Even most young people say that heroin and cocaine should be illegal. But
Mm.
I that's what I think. Having looked at what the situation, I don't think it's gonna. People are gonna take it anyway, so you might as well get tax it, make sure that they're getting safe stuff, and the money's going to good causes that'll help people. But yeah, so we've got a few other stories to cover, Dad. They're all related. So today's Friday. Monday broke the record for the hottest day that's ever been recorded on our planet. Obviously, millions of years ago it was hotter, but the hottest day that's been recorded, it was like was it like 16.8 degrees or something Celsius average, including Antarctica and Arctic and everything. And then a day later, it was broken. It reached 17 degrees, Dad. And
Yeah,
I think it was on Tuesday. It was either Monday. You up?
What's this? England, Great Britain have come out. They have this agreement or something, haven't they?
Well, yeah, that's it. So on Monday and Tuesday, we broke the record for the hottest temperatures ever recorded. And at the same time as this is happening, the British government, in all its esteemed wisdom, dropped an 11.6 billion pledge to fund climate and nature conservation. Absolutely unbelievable, Dad.
Oh yeah, they shouldn't go back on the word there, should they? No, no, no.
No, of course not. And it's
But what did they say the cause is? Because they're funding Ukraine, or
yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, they only upped it. I think it was like when we had the COP15 in Glasgow. That was the pledge. Like when they were there, basically greenwashing, right? Trying to lie to people about how green their credentials were. They increased from 5.8 billion to 11.6 billion, and then now they've just left it. And they've, as you said, the reason they've given is because of the Ukraine war. So rather than push for peace in Ukraine, they'd rather just spend all British taxpayers' money trying to crush Russia along with America and NATO, and then leave us all basically to whatever comes because of the climate crisis.
well, it's about time they sat around the table, Putin and Ukraine, and it's about I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. They're just dying for no reason at all.
No, I mean, everyone knows that no one's going to win this war. Russia's not going to win it. Ukraine is not going to win it. How do you win a war anyway? I mean,
Putin's not going to give in, is he? Whichever way, he's not going to do.
And neither is America. It's Ukraine can do whatever, but without American and NATO support, Ukraine won't last 5 minutes then. So it's basically, as usual, it's America that's pulling the strings. It's a proxy war between America and Russia, and all these Ukrainians and all these poor Russian boys are basically being sacrificed, right? Left to die.
Well, I noticed I saw an item in the paper that a lot of Ukrainian youngsters, they're deserting and going into other countries.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, on this little island that I live on in Japan, in the last year, we've had a couple of Ukrainians being here, and they're the same. I asked them, and they were like a little bit kind of sheepish about it. I was like, how aren't you fighting? And they said, well, I live in Thailand. They go and do like a 6-month voyage or whatever, 3-month voyage. Then they go back to Thailand, and I think they're just paying a little bit of money to the government so that they don't have to fight.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you
I
know.
mean,
And
yeah, because they're going into different countries to go and meet their wives and children again, like, the deserters, like,
mm,
I know well, the wars, they don't prove anything, do they?
no, I mean, honestly, Dad, it's like there's not a lot that would get me to go and fight, risk my life. You know, not a war anyway. You know what I
Oh
mean?
no, no,
It's
no.
like the
I mean, we're
conscientious
we're so,
objectors.
we're supposed to have won the war, but Germany are better off than us. I mean, it doesn't prove anything. Wars don't prove anything at all. You've got to sit
No,
around a table and debate it, not kill people. No.
yeah, no, totally, Dad. I mean, yeah, if I was Ukrainian, I hate to say it, but I might do the same. And conscientious objectors have been around forever, Dad. In all the wars, like World War II, conscientious objectors have been there, right? So
Yeah, but why? I mean, why? First of all, Russia, they didn't want them to go. They didn't want Ukraine to go into NATO. Well, why can't Ukraine say, okay, we'll stop the war. We'll never go into NATO.
hmm.
If that is a problem, say we're never going to NATO, and then to stop the war.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's awful, doesn't it? Because they've, after the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union collapsed, that was one of the conditions was America or NATO will never ever go up to Russia's border. Now they're basically doing it, right?
Yeah, well,
So
they,
you know,
they, they're not going to be happy. Ukraine are not going to be happy just to get the Donbass region back. I think they want Crimea back as well.
yeah, and you can blame them, but what do you want, Dad? Isn't it? It's
Well,
do you
no,
want to
they've got
have
to, they've got,
you know?
yeah, but they've got to sit around the table and say, okay, you can keep Crimea, but the rest, it's got to be done around the table, not getting your youngsters killed.
Oh, I totally agree, Dad. Yeah, we should be doing that instead of spending all this money that we should be spending on the climate crisis, on weapons, on hellfire bloody missiles or whatever it is we've been
Well,
arming them with.
yeah, but why we're spending all this money going to the moon and going to the different planets and everything? Well, why can't they spend that money and on our planet Earth?
Yeah,
You
you're not
know,
going to find any. You're not going to find any objection there, Dad.
I
They,
know. I mean, they spend the money on our planet. You know, all the waterways being rubbish and the sea and everything like that. We're killing the planet. So spend that money to keep the planet alive, isn't it?
I know, but it doesn't make money, Dad. Unless it makes money, unless it makes a profit for someone, then they won't do it, Dad. The war in Ukraine is making massive amounts of profits for some companies, and then it's going to have to be rebuilt, and it'll be rebuilt by American and British companies, probably. It's the
Oh,
same.
yeah.
The same people who've destroyed it will be paid to put it back together again. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Well, no,
So
yeah, Russia
that
should have to pay for that, shouldn't they?
well, I mean, they should, but I can't imagine that happening. Can you?
No, no,
Uh,
not unless someone does away with Putin.
well, yeah, I mean, there's a that's a this possibility, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
The last story we had that is related again to the previous one about the environment. Did you see the protesters at Wimbledon, Dad? Did you? The Just Stop Oil boys and girls,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
granddads and grandwomen?
Confetti and jigsaws onto the pitch, yeah, onto
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So, they were all in their 60s, Dad. They've all got grandchildren. People in the crowd were screaming at them, "Losers, losers!" So, who's the loser? Here, Dad. The people who are trying to protect their grandchildren's
Well,
futures.
no, I agree. The only way the governments will listen. You've got to have a demonstration, which is wrong. You shouldn't have to have a demonstration, but the demonstration should be done outside Parliament, not
Hmm.
on football pitches and tennis courts.
Well,
They
yeah,
should be
yeah. I
done
mean,
outside Parliament.
but the thing is that Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, all these groups, they did have a protest outside Parliament, 10,000 people in April, and the media didn't cover it. That do you know what I mean? Because they were just peacefully singing "Come By Our."
Well, if they kept on doing it, the media would take notice.
I don't know, Dad. I don't know whether they would. What do you think? Suella Braverman said that it was unacceptable and they are selfish. Dad, is she right? Do you think?
No, I don't like her. I don't like her. Right? She shouldn't be in the government. She shouldn't.
But no, I don't like her either. That, but forget about the fact that we don't like her. Is she right to say that they're being selfish because they're stopping the tennis game?
Well, no, like I said, the protest should be outside Parliament. They should. No, so I'm agreeing with her in that way. They shouldn't. And it's dangerous. They tried this on the racetrack as well the other week.
Mm.
And the police had to drag them off in front of the horses. Them horses could have killed the police and that, like,
Mm.
So
I think I think they were quite safe when they did that.
See, people are not going to listen to them, and when they do stupid things like that,
Yeah, yeah. Well, she said they were unacceptable, and Lord Debs, who's the climate advisor, who released a report last week saying the British government is missing all of its climate targets, said that the government was utterly unacceptable. So, one of them is right. If the government is utterly unacceptable in their response to climate crisis, Dad, I think people running in front of horses or stopping two people in a fluffy tennis ball at each other, I think they're probably justified, right? You got to think about your kids and you.
No, yeah, but it should be done. If they kept on going outside Parliament and protesting and that, they would listen then, probably,
Well, maybe. I think we'll have to disagree on that one, Dad. I don't think the government will listen until they get enough, and until people make the government's job too difficult for them, they won't listen.
Yeah, but when they're gluing themselves to the road, I mean, it could stop ambulances going past and say, it could stop a life being saved and things like that,
Yeah.
So, you've got to think of all things like that, haven't you? Really, demonstrations are good, but they've got to be done in the right way, Simon.
Yeah, so I think we'll probably have to agree to disagree on that one, Dad. Stick to it. Just stop oil. I want to see some more protests. They'll be at the British Grand Prix this year, Dad, for sure.
See you.
All right. Yeah. All right. Take it easy, Dad. Good speaking to you. I'll speak to you again. Yeah. Take it easy.
See you, boy. See you.
Ta-ra.